بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم. So now, if we look, we have covered the I'rab Asli and the I'rab Far'i. And I'rab Asli and I'rab Far'i, they were all visible signs. You could see the I'rab either in either in haraka, fatha, damma, kasra or sukun, or in huruf, alif, waw or ya. Now what he's mentioning here, or even in the noon, for example, he's mentioning certain scenarios and certain cases where all of the harakat are, all or some of the harakat are not visible. We just assume that they are there. They are not there because of enunciation purposes or certain other causes. So for example, he says here, tuqaddaru means assumed or hidden. So we say all of the harakat, jami'ul harakat, are assumed or hidden. So all of the harakat are assumed or hidden in words such as ghulami or fata. Okay? وَيُسَمَّ الثَّانِي مَقْصُورًا. So for example, we have first example is ghulami. In the likes of ghulami. What does ghulami kind of really show? Ghulami means my slave. He read this book a long time ago before emancipation when there were slaves around, meaning my slave. But what's the example we have here? What kind of structure is ghulami? What kind of structure is ghulami? Mudaf, mudaf ilay. And what kind of word is a mudaf ilay? Is dhamir. What kind of dhamir? What is it? Ya. It's dhamir muttasil, but it's a ya. Mutakallim dhamir, correct. So let's look at this one first. Now the thing is, when you have the zamir al-mutakallim, which is ya, what does ya need before it? It says tastad'i, it demands. What does it do? It demands that the word before it must have a kasra, just to make it match. Now because of this, because of the ya mutakallim demanding a kasra before it, the word itself cannot manifest its i'rab. So the i'rab has to be muqaddara. Do you understand? So when you have a word which is mudaf ila ya al-mutakallim, then we say what? That the ya al-mutakallim demands a kasra before it. So therefore the fatha dhamma or the fatha or dhamma and kasra is muqaddara. The kasra here is not a kasra of i'rab, it's a kasra of kasrul munasabah. So let's say for example, if I said hadha waladi, this is my son. So waladi has a kasra. What kind of kasra is this? Kasratul munasabah. A kasra to match the ya al-mutakallim. Munasabah means matching, yes. A kasra to match. And the actual haraka, which is muqaddar, is the dhamma. Hada waladuy. But you can't say that, so you add walad. If it was mansoob state, you would say ra'aytu, I saw. Ra'aytu waladi, I saw my son. So waladi, this ya, what kind of kasra is on the dal? What do you call that kasra? Kasratul munasabah, a kasra of appropriateness, meaning to match, a kasra to match. And what's the actual i'rab on the haraka muqaddara? Fatha. If we said nadartu ila waladi, I look towards my son. Nadartu, I look towards ila waladi. What kind of kasra is on this ya? What kind of kasra is on the dal? What do you call this? Ya'ul munasabah. And the actual haraka should be then what? Kasra. So the kasra, the real kasra is muqaddara, and the kasra we have here is ya'ul munasabah. Sorry, kasratul munasabah. So in all three cases, when you have a word which is mudaf to ya'il mutakallim, what happens? We say the ya'ul mutakallim demands a kasra munasabah before it, therefore that will have a kasra, and in all three states, the fatha, dhamma or kasra will be muqaddara, which shows the i'rab. Yeah. You can argue that. What you're saying, his argument is, why can't we say this kasra is actually the kasra of the majrur state? I'm sure some scholar of Nahwa said that, But the majority don't say that, so we just have to stick to this, so when it's written in the books we know what it really is. But what your argument is makes sense. Why can we not say, well, it's muqaddar in mansoob and marfu and mansoob state, and in majroor state is actually a kasra? You could argue for that, and people have argued for that, but the scholars have now agreed more or less upon the fact that it is not. So when you see it in the books, you will see it written as such. Okay? Okay? Wu yusammu, not wu yusammu, wa yusamma. The second one, al-fata. Al-fata is an example. Fata means what? An ismul maqsoor. What's an ismul maqsoor? Any word which has in its akhirihi, in the end of it, an alif lazim. I mean an alif which is part of the word, which can't be dropped off. So the word fata has what at the end? In alif lazima. Now the harakat has to be muqaddara. Because, what's the rule? Can alif have a haraka? Can alif have a haraka? Can alif have a fatha, dhamma or kasra? No, it can never have a fatha, dhamma or kasra. What has a fatha, dhamma and kasra? The hamza. Hamza has a, like this. Yes? That's why you write a-u-e. This is a hamza, not an alif. Alif never has a fatha, dhamma or kasra. So because alif can't take a fatha, dhamma or kasra, the i'rab has to be what? What does it have to be? Muqaddara. So in any word which is mudaf to ya al-mutakallim, or if the word is an ism al-maqsoor, then we say that this word will have its i'rab muqaddar in all of its states, i.e. marfu, mansoob and majroor state. You following? Any questions, Muhammad, regarding that? Abdul Rahman? Umar? Okay. Now, this is adf and tuqaddar, but tuqaddar wa dhamma. So basically, in the previous sentence we had tuqaddaru jami'ul harakat. All letters, all harakat will be hidden in these words. And the dhamma and kasra. Wa tuqaddaru dhammatu wal qasru, i.e. faqat. Only, not mentioned, but only dhamma and kasra will be muqaddar in a word such as al-qadi. وَكَانَ وَيُسَمَّى مَنْقُوسًا. And this kind of word is called ismun manqus. What's this word called? Ismun manqus. What's an ismun manqus? What's an ismun manqus? A word that ends in a ya preceded by a kasra. So if a word ends in a ya, before it what do we have? A kasra. Then this is called what? So a ya sakina preceded by a ya with a kasra. Any word that ends in this structure is called what? Ismun manqusun. And we've done this already, all this already in Nahwa. What will happen if it's marfu state? We will say, for example, hadha, or let's say, for example, ja al-qadi. Ja al-qadi. What will happen now? We could say qadiyu, but because this i'rab is thaqil, so we say qadi is a sukoon. It should have been a dhamma, and we should say ja al-qadiyu. But because a dhamma on a ya is deemed to be harsh in enunciation, hard to pronounce. So instead of saying ja al-qadiyu, we say ja al-qadi. Correct? If you see the qazi, ra'aytul, what would it be? Ra'aytul qadiyah. It becomes qadiyah. It becomes mansoob. Now here you can actually see the fatha. Because a fatha on the ya is not difficult. You can pronounce it quite easily. So here the i'rab is, so in here we say the i'rab is muqaddara. The haraka is muqaddara. Here is zahira. You can actually see it taking place. Zahiratun. And then you have here, nadartu, I look towards, nadartu ilal qadi. What should it mean? Ilal qadiyi. Correct? But qadiyi, a kasra on the ya, you can see when I pronounce it is very harsh. So then even here the i'rab will be muqaddara, tuqaddaru. The i'rab will be assumed and hidden. You will hide the kasra and just have nadartu ila al-qadiyi ay qadi. Understood? Okay, everybody following? So in words like qadi, which are called ismun manqus, the dhamma and the qasra are muqaddara. Understood? Everybody following? Yes? Then وتقدر أي والضمة والفتحة في نحو يخشى وَالضَّمَّةُ فِي نَحْوِ يَدْعُو وَيَقْضِي. Now basically now he's going on to the verbs. Now what he's saying here, if you look at it, these are naqis verbs, i.e. verbs which end in a harfun illa. So if you look at them, there are a few types of harfun illa. Okay, so what do we have here? We have, let's say for example, we have a verb, we have here marfu state, then we have mansoob state, and we have majzoom state. Correct? We have 3 states. Okay? And then we have different types of words. The word ends in an alif. For example, the word yakhsha. What does it end in? An alif. Or it ends in a let's do the yarmi. It ends in, so yakhsha alif. Yarmi ends in a ya. Or yad'u, it ends in a wow. Yad'u. Now what will happen when it's marfu? What would you say? Yakhsha. So yakhsha should actually be yakhshayu, but then you make it yakhsha. So the i'rab is muqaddara. What's here? Dhamma is muqaddara. Yes? Correct? Are you following? When yakhsha is mansoob, it becomes what? Lay yakhshaya. So even here, what's muqaddara? Lay yakhsha. It should have been lay yakhshaya, but you can't have a fatha on the ya. When you got fatha before it becomes lay yakhsha again. So in here, the dhamma and the fatha is muqaddara. When it's majzoom, then what will happen? Hazful haraka. It becomes lam yakhsha. We've done all of this before in Bidqui and our Nahwa books already. Lam yakhsha. The ya drops off. What will happen in yarmi and yad'u? Yarmi should really be what? Marfu state, yar. It should be yarmiyu, but because a dhamma on the ya is thaqil, you say yarmi. When it's mansoob, what do you say? Lan yarmiya. There's no problem in having a ya with a fatha, so it becomes lan yarmiya. And when it's majzoom state, what happens to the harful illa? What happens to the harful illa? It drops off. When it comes to yad'u, what should it really be? Yad'u. Is a dhamma easy to pronounce on a waw? No, so it's muqaddara. So all of these are what? Muqaddara. These are what? Muqaddaratun. Correct? Yes? And then if you have lan yarmiya, what should it be? When you have lan before this, it becomes what? Lan yad'uwa. If fatha on a waw is not difficult, you leave it as such. And then here, the lam, the harful illa will drop. Lam yad'u, the harful illa will drop. So what he's saying, so where's the muqaddar haraka? In the words like yakhsha, in the marfu, the dhamma is muqaddara, and in mansoob, the fatha is muqaddara. And in the dhamma is muqaddara in yarmi and in yad'u only. Only the dhamma is muqaddara, and in mansoob state, the fatha is apparent and clear. Correct? So in words like yad'u and yaqdi, basically when it's actually so yaqdi and yarmi. So in these two words, there's one muqaddar haraka, and in these two, there's 2 muqaddar haraka. Understood what he's saying? Yes? Yes. It should be lan yakhshaya, but when you have a fatha, when you have a harful illa with fatha, and the word before it has a fatha, then you have to change it to yakhsha alif again. That's the rule. Yes, it would have been no. Like example, lan yarmiya. So it remains the same. Okay. Then he's saying, وَتَظْهَرُ الْفَتْحَةُ فِي نَحْوِ إِنَّ الْقَاضِيَ لَنْ يَقْضِيَ وَلَنْ يَدْعُوَ. So what's this? The haraka and the fatha will be apparent in ismul. What kind of word is this? Qadi. What kind of noun is this? Ismun. It's ismun manqusun. So the i'rab is what? Muqaddara or apparent? Zahira? Zahira. When you have lan yaqdiya, where can you see the fatha? When you have, so when it ends in a ya or when it ends in a waw, as I mentioned before, the fatha becomes apparent. So تظهر الفتحة في نحو إن القاضي لن يقضي ولن يدعو. Correct? So now if we look at this here, now his classification is not as good as some other books, but Birqui's got better classification. I'll do a summary of that inshallah Monday inshallah. So you have I'rab Asli, which is Dhamma, Fatha, Kasra and Hazfu Haraka, and I'rab Far'i. And I'rab Far'i, so these are what? I'rab Zahira. Then you have I'rab Muqaddara. Muqaddara. Okay? So when you have a normal noun or a normal fa'il, what happens? Marfu state with dhamma, mansoob with fatha, majroor with kasra, and majzoom with hazfu haraka. If you have one of the 6 nouns, al-asma'u sitta, then marfu alif, mansoob with waw, majroor with ya. If you have muthanna or jam'u mudhakkar salim, both are mansoob with majroor and mansoob with ya. And this is marfu with alif, and jam'u mudhakkar salim is marfu with what? Wow. If you got jam'ul muannath salim, which is also al-jam'u bil alifi wa ta'il mazidatayn, then marfu with what? With what? Dhamma and mansoob and majroor with kasra. If it's ma la yansarif, marfu with and mansoob and majroor with, and along with that is no tanween in ghayr munsarif. If it's amthilatul khamsa, meaning the 5 sighas of the verbs, marfu with what? Thubutin noon. And when it's mansoob and majzoom, what happens with the noon? The noon drops. And if you have a fa'al mudari which has a harful illa at the end, the dhamma becomes muqaddara. You have a fatha zahira, and you remove the hazful akhir. Yes? Correct? And then the i'rab is muqaddara when you have a word which is mudaf to ya or ismun maqsoor. 2 of the 3 states are muqaddara in qadi, 2 states are muqaddara in yaksha, and 1 state is muqaddara in yad'u, which is a marfu state. And this is how he's explained the i'rab table. Understood? Any questions so far? Yes? So what we'll do inshallah, we'll summarize the i'rab again. Before now we'll move on to next section is what will happen throughout the book. We'll study what makes nouns marfu, what makes nouns mansoob, what makes nouns majroor. But there's no section in the book specifically for what makes nouns marfu, mansoob and majzoom. So he's going to mention that right here. So next section we have is what makes verbs marfu, what makes verbs mansoob, and what makes verbs majzoom. And then after that we start jumla ismiya, mubtada, khabar, fa'il, fa'il, maf'ul bihi, the hal, tamyiz, mustasna, all of these things will come. But before we start that, we're going to just understand what makes a verb marfu, what makes a verb mansoob, and what makes a verb majzoom. Okay, understood? Yes? We stop here today inshallah. Subhanallahi wa bihamdihi, subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika, wa nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta wa nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk.